Everybody, here we are for the first learning video in Mod 11. We are exploring correlation or associations between our quantitative data sets. So you've already been taking a look at some scatter plots, and let's see how that plays out in StatCrunch. I have already put on your mod guide here this scatter plot that we're going to make, but never miss an opportunity to practice with StatCrunch. So I've got our StatCrunch screen over on the right. We need to click to load a data set. I think if I search for just roller coaster, this will come up somewhere. Let's see. Here we go. Roller coaster drops and durations. And I did it quick, but it did have the right owner there. So here we go. This is our data set. So somebody took a sample of 10 roller coasters here. They're just identified as A through J. And then we've got the height of the initial drop in feet and the duration of that ride in seconds. And we're going to look for this scatter plot to explore that relationship with the initial drop as our explanatory variable and the duration as our response variable. So of course, a scatter plot is a graph, so we're going there first, and then we pick scatter plot. Let me get this in your screen here. There we go. So our x variable, well, x is our explanatory variable, so that's initial drop. The y variable is our response variable, so that is duration. We really don't need to worry about anything else on this page. Let's just click compute, and so now you've got that scatter diagram there in your StatCrunch screen. It is the same scatter diagram you have on your page here, just a little different scale. So why don't you go ahead, pause the video for just a moment and answer each of these questions, because it's material you've already laid the foundation for in OLI. So let's see how you apply it here to this data. Pause, answer the questions, and then come on back. All right, so these are the answers that I put in, that I've got a positive association as the values for initial drop get larger by moving to the right. The values for duration get larger by moving up. So that is our positive association, where we see those points going up from left to right. This form is decently linear. In statistics class beyond introductory, we might evaluate it under different types of forms to see if a quadratic form would fit better. But for us, we're really just looking at, is it linear or not? And this seems like a linear model will be, will do a decent job of describing this relationship. Which is why for strength, I put moderately strong. I understand that right now you don't really have a lot of basis for how you're making these decisions, and it really is very subjective. We're going to do some more analysis that'll sort of help you with become a little more comfortable with those subjective decisions, but it still is all going to have some degree of subjectivity to it. Okay, outliers. So this point up here in the upper right, let me click on it there. So that is roller coaster H with an initial drop of 261 and a duration, of 266. So certainly it is far away from the rest of the data, but when we're thinking about linear associations, linear correlations, that in itself does not make it an outlier. we are looking for something in terms of an outlier that shies away from or doesn't follow the direction or the form. And this point really does. It follows that positive direction. It follows that linear form. We could draw sort of a line, including that point that kind of fits all of the data. So that point is not an outlier. That individual roller coaster is not an outlier. Thinking about each of the pieces separately, if I'm thinking about just initial drops, well, there's initial drop here. I don't know what that is, 210, something like that. And then this one here, it's not the biggest distance change in initial drop. So I feel like the x coordinate here, the 261, is probably not an outlier. On the other hand, when we're thinking about just the duration, when we're thinking about moving around this graph in only the vertical direction, we've got this point up at a duration of 181, but then we have to go all the way up to here to this duration of, oh, maybe can't see that. Well, that's the duration of 266. So that is a really big gap from 181 up to 266. So I think that duration probably is an outlier. But again, in terms of linear correlation, yes, it's far away, but it follows the form, it follows the direction, so it is not an outlier.